Times Radio with Matt Chorley.
Morning, nice to have you with us. We've got PMQs Unpacked coming up at 12 o'clock. We'll go live to the House of Commons to pause the action and analyse in real time what on earth is going on between Boris Johnson and Keir Starmer. So stay tuned for that at 12. Later on in the House of Commons, in the Westminster Hall, there is a debate being held by MPs on the impact that social media has on our body image. It's been hosted by the Conservative MP, Dr. Luke Evans, who joins me now. Hi, Luke.
Hi, Matt. Nice to speak to you.
So why have you called this debate in the Commons later? How concerned are you about this issue?
I'm really concerned, and it's actually a long-standing issue that I'm wanting to raise up. So the reason for calling it is basically 1 in 5 adults and 1 in 3 children have negative feelings about their body. They have body shame. And I think social media and the online platforms have a real part to play in this. You only have to think about the amount of images that are driven to us when we're using the likes of Instagram. And it creates this unrealistic potential of how you should look and how you should feel. It feeds into the narrative that you were just talking about in your previous call about the depression side of things. And without dealing with this problem is going to get away with us. And the Women and Equalities Committee looked at this and have said there's a big problem there. So I'm keen to make sure the government makes strides to identify this and deal with it.
And it's one of those things where identifying the problem seems to me easier than finding a solution.
You are absolutely right. And I mean, fair play to the government on this. They're bringing forward the online harms bill, the first in the world that's trying to tackle this. But as you rightly point out, it's actually very difficult to identify all these different areas. So the way I would perceive this working is the government's bringing forward the online harms bill. It's a framework to manage risk and look at those areas that there should be a particular duty of care. So what I'm suggesting to the government is that one of the priorities they should look at is the impact of body image. So that if you're making your biceps bigger or your waist smaller or using a filter or bombarding people with unrealistic images, that can have a negative psychological effect. It can drive people at the worst case to either going towards eating disorders or using things like steroids. And there's actually a growing problem there that we can do something about. So that's what my ask from government is today, to identify the issue and prioritise it.
And this online harms bill seems to be becoming a bit of a slight Christmas tree of legislation where, from all angles, things are being hung on it. How confident are you that the measures aimed at dealing with body image will make it in there and actually make a difference?
Well, you're right, and lots of people have lots of different things they want to put in there. And I mean, arguably, how do you choose or trump over, say, racism or body image or hate speech, or all these kind of things? I think there's a role there. What it comes down to is a duty of care put in place on the platforms themselves, that I believe they can do more. Some are taking up the mantle to put in more controls, but I think it's government there to put in the framework that's backed up with Ofcom. So the key thing is making sure Ofcom have the power and the resources to deal with it. Now, I believe they do at this point in time. They're certainly recruiting and looking at the best way to have those tools and the ability to find and demand information to see what is actually going on. We only have to look what happened in Facebook with the leaks to know that they were aware of some of the issues, particularly aimed at women and the negative effects social media were having. I think that's been a real sort of chink in the dam that's going to open this up, and that the online harms bill has a real way, with Ofcom's help, of solving this.
We spoke to Catherine Birbal-Singh the day before yesterday, obviously head teacher, now also chairing the Social Mobility Commission. And I asked her about mobile phones, and she was of the view that you should, probably up to the age of 16, not let your children have their own phones which access the internet, give them a brick phone so that they can contact parents in an emergency. It seemed quite an extreme view, but is that something that is there a role of parents in this? The way to protect your children from the negative impacts of, unrealistic body image, which you can find online, is to limit your children's exposure to it through their ability to, whether it's, 10-year-olds on Instagram or whatever it might be. Do you think that needs to be looked at as well, that parents have a role, need to take a firmer line on this?
Well, I think parents do definitely have a role, but it's in taking interest in your child, what they're interested in, what platforms they're actually using, and some understanding about, how does TikTok work? What are the parental tools actually that are in place that you can put on? So internet providers have that ability to put on parental locks. And then with the age verification, I know that the social media companies are looking at making sure they are completely tight on that. So you don't have access to certain features if you're under a certain age, which seems a very sensible way. But I don't think there's one silver bullet to all of this. It's all the way along the line, from education and resilience at schools for kids on how to use social media to understand what the implications are, labeling of images if they've been doctored, parents taking more responsibility, government putting in a framework and a duty of care on the social media providers, them acting on it and failing to act on it, Ofcom having the power to investigate them, fine them and discipline them for their failings. So it's a combination all the way through to join it all up.
It was a really good issue to be raising in the House of Commons later. That's Luke Evans, the Conservative MP for Bolesworth, who's hosting a debate in Westminster Hall in the House of Parliament later on the subject of body image. Well, we'll go live.